Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece episode 880. So yeah, as expected, the episode this week immediately what was basically immediately better than last week, but by virtue of us actually getting to see the commanders of the Revolutionary Army and their actions in basically liberating an entire town from pirates. And just knowing that the pirate group were affiliates of Blackbeard, it makes the episode all the better because we can easily interpret this whole episode as coincidental revenge for basically what pretty much Blackbeard did to Baltigo. So yeah, a little bit of revenge for a little bit of revenge that the Revolutionary Army managed to exact on the Blackbeard pirates for that one, I guess. Um, Having said that, and this is gonna sound strange, but I gotta give Toei credit for basically for going down the route of not even censoring I think it was of not even censoring Betty's character design. Like, if anything, they actually kind of enhanced it. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because when I first saw her character design in the manga, my first thought was that there's no way that Toei's gonna let a design like this fly. But boy, was I wrong. Like I said, if anything, when it comes to the character of pretty much of basically when we see the character of basically Bell Obedi in this chapter, in this episode, they pretty much went basically full on. Like, her character design is just it's basically it's like a true adaptation of her design from the manga, which yeah, like, just considering how exposed that pretty much Betty's character design is. Yeah, I would have thought that they would have tried to censor it in some way, but nope, they just went full on with that character design, and hey, I'm all for it. Okay, um, but let's talk about the big thing in this episode, which is that we basically get the reveal that the revolutionaries are entering the final stage of their grand plan against the world government, which is that they are preparing to declare war on the celestial dragons themselves. And I failed to mention this in my manga review of this content, but revisiting it now in this episode, it kind of makes me realize that with this episode and looking back on this material in general, it feels like we pretty much are starting to enter a sort of endgame phase for pretty much the revolutionaries, in terms of the revolutionaries' role in the story, and revolutionaries' role in the story in terms of what and we're definitely kind of entering that endgame phase for the revolutionaries for sure in this episode, or it feels like that. And I know it was only an anime only scene, but Luffy's single mention of Sabo's name does definitely concern me in terms of what Oda has planned for pretty much the entire organization. Like, I don't want to make assumptions yet, but looking back on this material, I almost wonder if the revolutionaries are even going to make it out of this alive. Like, it kind of seems like the revolutionaries are on a bit of a legit on a bit of a suicide mission here. Like, I don't even know if they're even gonna get out of this alive, and if taking down the celestial dragons is gonna end in the entire organization's death, in every one of the organization, like, pretty much dying, or the main, or at the very least the pretty much main, like the main leaders of the organization for sure. But yeah, like, it overall, though, just revisiting this material and with this episode, it does feel like we are kind of reaching a bit of an end game with the revolutionaries for sure. And although as far as what the details of that entail, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. Um, one thing. Now, one thing I will say that I kind of enjoyed about this episode is that the whole battle between the revolutionaries and the pirates in this. Now, one thing I really enjoyed about the battle between the revolutionaries and the pirates in this episode is that it didn't. The one thing about this episode is that it didn't in its own way expose I think one of the big problems with the whole system of the monarchies of the royalty and of course and this whole meeting of kings that's going on, that's like the main focus of this arc, which is that because because whenever we have it's from the explanation of what the meaning of kings entails, every single time it comes around, it does seem like every single time it comes around, it does seem to leave like from which the royalty's prospective countries pretty much vulnerable to pirates, which in a weird way, even though even though even though all the nobles are supposed to hate pirates, in a weird way, but by pretty much the citizens being having this kind of exposure to pirates, having this much exposure to pirates when the royalty is away, it does kind of actually help the royalty in a way by actually but because with ordinary citizens being vulnerable to pirates like this, it exposes them to. And exposing them to that kind of danger, it also makes them easier to rule over. So, which is probably how a lot of the nobles like it. But as it's shown, as this episode shows, it's kind of a two-way street. Because even though the nobility leaving, it leaves even though with the noble, even with all the nobles gone, it does leave citizens open to pirate attacks more. On the flip side, it also makes them more. It makes them easier to be influenced by outside influences like the Revolutionary Army, who came along and saved everyone in the royalties in the nobles' places. So, yeah, it's really kind of an interesting thing how we can say that pretty much the character, how we can say that pretty much the. We can say that with the nobility gone, it really just kind of has both a bit of a bad and a good effect. Well, like the bad effect again is that pirate attacks is definitely bad in the sense where the pirates in their own weird way are kind of helping helping to make the citizens a lot more susceptible to rule over by the nobility, but at the same time the revolutionaries are the revolution. It makes the citizens easy pickings for the Revolutionary Army as well, and the Revolutionary Army as well. So there's that. And so one thing, and one thing I really got to give this episode credit for, believe it or not, is the is kind of the artwork. It's the artwork for sure. Like it's I will admit that the episode, it wasn't very action heavy to begin with, so I guess the animation itself did kind of suffer a little bit, but in terms of the artwork, it was really on point in this episode. It wasn't always good. There were a couple of iffy moments, but when I feel, but there were some definitely standout moments with the artwork in this episode. So yeah, there's that too. And I one thing I really got to give this episode credit for is that it didn't rely on heavy use of character flashbacks from previous episodes, and even though we pretty much still did kind of get it with Sabo, I can say that the flashback in this episode, it was a lot more, it was mercifully shorter compared to previous episodes of the arc. In fact, I don't wanna assume anything yet, because I know that tends to, I tend to eat my own words, but with the fact that we've gotten over the bare bones of the setup with this arc, I'm hoping we'll pretty much get a little more exploration with the story itself. But who knows? Since because I think beyond this point I don't think we pretty much have even a whole lot of material left to cover with this arc itself. So even before moving on to Wano, which, yeah, Wano itself, for any of those who are anime onlys or still just catching up to the manga, yeah, Wano itself is gonna be an arc in itself. It's kind of something special for sure. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and a list of Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.